2026 is already looking like to be another insane year. With so many events happening in January alone that I can't talk about on YouTube, it looks like it'll be another long and painful year. But hey, some good things have come out so far, like the announcement of the Persona 30th anniversary event. And you know, I like Persona. I think they're really fun games, and engages its audience with its great and introspective stories, even though said audience can be annoying as sin.
I know that you said that you get nervous around girls, but only one way to get better.
This thing is trash!
So when everyone's favorite PC storefront, Epic Games, decided it was gonna give out a Persona-like game for free, I got interested. Now normally I don't pay attention to their free games because that launcher should only be known for as the Fortnite launcher, but this one caught my attention. Number one, it was an indie game, which I don't normally play because the last couple of indie games I played were hot garbage. And number two, I heard someone describe this as Persona made by r/anime. This instantly caught my attention and I knew I had to play it. And after finishing the game, I can confidently say that the statement is 100% true. Eternights is one of the worst indie games I've ever played in my entire life. Now again, I don't play indie games, so the bar is much lower than most other people's. But I haven't played something that has pissed me off this much in a hot minute. Almost every single aspect of this game annoys me for how amateurish and poorly thought out it is. Now, I should preface this by saying, this is this developer's first game that they have published. But I think it's a good indication that they should just give up and not make another video game ever. Because this tries and fails to imitate some of the greats of JRPG storytelling with the uniqueness of character action games. So, without further ado, here is Eternights, the worst Persona-like I've ever played. Now I'll start with the gameplay, and you're probably wondering, what do you mean, character action game? Persona is a JRPG, silly. What correlation does that have to Eternights? Well, I was also confused when I found out that this is actually similar to character action games like DMC or No More Heroes. Now, this was welcomed at first, until I started pressing the buttons and realized this combat is incredibly simple. You press the X button for your light attacks and Y for your heavy attacks. Comparing it to DMC, there's no buffering between attacks to do different combos, no finisher moves like Yakuza games have. It's mainly just spamming the X button because the Y combo is too slow to actually pull off during combat. Now there are special moves that you can unlock, some of them directly lifted from the Devil May Cry games. Stinger move, Spiral Swords, Judgment Cut, and Overdrive. Unlike DMC though, there's a bar that limits you to what special attacks you can do, with you smacking the enemies to build back up the bar. These moves are marginally better than your normal moveset, but they don't really flow together that well. And the general idea of doing cool combos can be thrown completely out the window. There is also a shield breaking mechanic tied to doing damage. Some boss enemies require you to do a special attack to break their shield, with an elemental icon indicating what you're supposed to do to break the shield. For example, fire shields use ice, and so on and so on. This is fine, mostly except for a few instances in boss fights where you break the shield and start to do damage, only for the game to start a cutscene that heals the boss back to full and removes your weapon gauge.
No, it can't! No, it can't! The fight can't begin because I have to have 5 cutscenes to actually, play the video game. Oh, and all that damage I just got, after the shield broke? Yeah, that you just fucked off. Okay.
That part's super annoying. Alongside your weapon meter, there's an SP gauge that is used for special abilities relegated to your party members. You have heal spells, shield/slowdown spells, and ice attacks. Health spells are by far the best spells to use in combat. Simply gaining back health is way better than killing enemies quicker in my opinion. You can unlock skills to get health back by defeating enemies later on, and depending on who you choose at the end of the game, the last section will be a lot harder than normal. Now I will talk about the most annoying aspect of this game and why its combat fails, how it handles its dodging and parrying mechanics. Now in good video games with dodge and parry mechanics, the dichotomy is the risk versus reward aspect that comes along with it. In Dark Souls, for example, you can roll and get iframes, which are easier to do but leave you vulnerable if you panic roll. Or you can stand your ground and hit a very precise counterattack that'll stun the enemy and give you a very powerful follow-up. Or in Devil May Cry, you can dodge the attack completely or just block the damage entirely with a perfect Royal Guard, not only building up your DT meter, but also a second one that allows you to unlock a quick and powerful attack at will. And if you time it perfectly with an enemy's attack, the damage will be way stronger. So now that we know about good parry mechanics, how does Eternights fare in comparison? Well, let's look at what happens when you successfully parry an enemy's attack. The enemy gets stunned and you can do a rush attack. Then the enemy gets back up. No special attack that does more damage, just your normal rush string. Kinda sucks, but what happens when you perfect dodge? Firstly, time slows down for a bit. Your attack speed is increased, the weapon meter gauge completely fills up, and you get a good chunk of your shield break meter back. It should also be known that perfect dodging is way easier than parrying, giving you a sound cue and a flashing light on the enemy when they're about to swing. So I have to ask, what is the point of parrying if you gain so little through so much more effort than just dodging normally? You could completely remove parrying from the game and nothing would change. In fact, it would be better, because anytime I try to parry to change things up a little bit, and not just roll my way to victory, I'm reminded that I could have been doing a lot more and get a lot more value by just pressing the roll button. It is a useless move compared to just rolling out of the way. but overall, the combat is below average for a game in this genre. It has some stuff from better games that are kind of cool, but it's not executed to the best of its ability. Now we'll switch to the social life gameplay. This is a little bit more in line with modern Persona games compared to its actual combat. You get the choice to go out, explore dungeons and fight monsters, or hang out with your friends and improve your social stats. One quick thing to add is if you complete that dungeon section earlier than intended, you can't go back to fight until the very next act, which kinda sucks, but the combat isn't great to begin with, but I guess you get punished for being good at the video game and doing the dungeon in one day. It even has a calendar system with deadlines and everything, although it's a lot more compact compared to an entire year. There are 5 social links with 7 ranks, except for one that only goes up to 5. That's your best friend, but we'll save that later for the story section. You can romance all the social links that go up to rank 7, and one of them is special for being in a relationship with a guy if you want. Very progressive video game. Along with this, you can do nighttime scavenger runs for your social link of your choosing, with 3 locations to choose and an item you need to grab. Succeeding in these will net you points to unlock upgrades for your party members and stat increases. The main issue with this is, 1, some item spawns don't make sense whatsoever. Tell me, viewer, does it make sense to find nail clippers and tea bags at a library and not, say, a convenience store? Because that's where you would find them apparently. So if the apocalypse does come, make sure you raid your local library for toenail clippers. And secondly, why do we only grab one singular item on this scavenge run? It makes no sense to just go out looking for a handheld console when you pass items like batteries, underwear, shoes, and other important items for survival. But I guess that would make sense, and the system would have to be completely reworked to not be this stupid. Maybe if the locations of the items get swapped around anytime you visit these locations could be better? Or maybe have a storage system only allowing you to keep some items on the train? Anything better than, we grab one piece of useless junk rather than what's actually necessary. And that's all for the social life gameplay. Without going into the social links themselves, as that is more for the story section, it's okay. With one part of it being really stupid if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, the social aspect serves its purpose decently well. Now we'll move on to the story. To briefly go over it, it's whatever. It starts out with you setting up a dating profile with your best friend archetype that Persona games love, and on the TV it's talking about a new drug called Eternights that slows down aging. You later take a questionnaire that doesn't matter in the long run, but hey, it has some hilarious dialogue options. And you get a random text from a mysterious woman who wants to go on a date with you. You go to sleep and have a dream which acts as the game's combat tutorial. Kind of out of left field since you won't be fighting until another 30 minutes later, but whatever. After you wake up, you go meet up with your date, and then the apocalypse starts. You and your friend go into a bunker and wait out for rescue that doesn't come. 3 days later, you venture out to find a pop star which introduces you to the social gameplay aspect, along with her friend. Sneak past some enemies only once in the entire game, then you meet up with a drone that leads you to a train platform. You get captured and the main character's arm gets sliced off, only to be replaced by a magical sword arm where the proper tutorial starts. And that's the opening act, basically. I know I made it sound like I skipped over some stuff, but that was basically all the important stuff. There's some minor stuff that has happened, like that one character that's friends with the pop star gets brutally murdered just as quickly as they got introduced, or the mysterious woman you were supposed to go on a date is named Lux, and your last message exchange with them, you can call her Mommy. Overall, the pace of this game is very fast, to the point where scenes happen so quickly you don't have time to process what actually just happened. Common critique of Persona games is that it takes way too long for the story to really start, but I think starting it with a normal everyday life and instantly going to the apocalypse is a bit too fast for this game's nature. I'm not going to do a full story analysis because that would be boring, and like I said, it's whatever. The real reason I wanted to make this video is because of its writing. This is what people meant when they said that this was made by r/anime redditors. The dialogue is god-awful. If Persona was written by American millennials rather than old Japanese men, this is what it would sound like, guaranteed. If you want a definitive answer as to why the dialogue is so bad, almost every dialogue option that the player has at their disposal will almost always include a quirky chungus piece of dialogue. Now that's not to say that I hate comedy when it comes to my anime games. That's ridiculous. Persona has its fair share of funny dialogue options that the player can say, and Persona 4 is a lot more lighthearted compared to the other games. But what's important is balance and when it's used. In Persona 3, for example, when you're talking to a child who's experiencing their parents going through a divorce, the option to say that it's probably their fault is such an out-of-left-field comment that it becomes funny. Because at that point, the game has been consistent with its tone and its other social links. While Persona 4 is very upbeat for a good 60% of the game, and the rest of it locks in and gets serious. But Eternights, and by extension most modern millennial writing, there has to be a joke or quip at every opportunity. Stuff can only be serious for less than 5 minutes, because fiction is not real, and everything should be silly, right? But are the jokes good? Hell no! It is the most eye-rolling Reddit Marvel humor trash we're all sick of. Your best friend is just a worse version of these character archetypes, who is way more horny than the other guys and is a complete dumbass. And not in the charming way, just straight up mentally challenged. When the second act starts, he gets a message on his phone telling him to click a link to get powers, because he is jealous of the main character. He taps it and it immediately puts his friends into danger and nearly gets them killed. Did his parents not teach him not to click random links from unknown phone numbers? Don't worry though, as he is relegated to only be at the base for the rest of the game, thankfully. The main chick of the group is the lover girl archetype, but worse, who does something that's not nearly as dumb as the best friend, but it's still kind of stupid. She gets an emergency alert notification that asks to gain access to her account to spread misinformation, which that's not how that works, but whatever. This later leads to hundreds of her fans being brutally slaughtered by the monsters. I'm not as mad as the other one because the people who would trust a pop star with their life are 70 IQ morons and those who think Reload was a good remake.
More like stupid faggot little cocksucker.
And the literal spawn of Satan and Baphomet combined, Science Girl. Science Girl is the Reddit final boss of anime waifus. Her entire personality, and I mean entire personality, is based on science. She constantly talks about how science is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it makes me want to slice the head off the person who wrote this character in Minecraft. And what's worse is that there was hope for an interesting arc. One of the social links has her contemplate if science is all she has, but they say fuck it, and have her do it more, because she just wasn't passionate enough, you see? Truly awful writing and an awful character to boot. The other characters are whatever. You got the shy nervous character, that's just these. And lastly, the mysterious dude like these people. Quickly going over voice performances, they're mostly okay. A good chunk of the cast is actually actors from the main Persona games themselves. Doesn't help that most of their dialogue is either forgettable or cringe-inducing, but it's neat nonetheless. Back to the story real quick. It's your typical Persona story structure of a dungeon, kill some time till the next dungeon by improving your social stats, and unlock new abilities for the next dungeon. Again, I don't have much to say since the story doesn't upset me as much as the dialogue, which might be another negative since being apathetic towards a story is worse than outright hating it in my opinion. But something really funny happens halfway through. When the Valorant gay guy joins the group, he welcomes us to the Philip Express. And if you've seen my video on my lovely friend, you'll know why.
Oh.
What?
Oh my god.
No. 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 Oh my god. That's not
Yelled at us
funny.
because of
That's not even remotely funny.
But the funnies don't stop there, as it's revealed that the drone lady with big boobs is actually in a full body cast, like that one episode of SpongeBob.
Specifically.
We're fucking chilling with What the fuck is happening in this game?
I had a 5-minute laughing fit when this happened because this was the funniest part of the entire game. And it wasn't even supposed to be funny. Just shows how bad the writing is. But anyway, you do the last dungeon and get some lore about the science girl that I don't care about. Drone Lady gets freed from the human cast and our best friend tries to spit some mad game at her, only for her to say that she's asexual.
I'm not into guys or girls or anyone. Oh, she's asexual predator. Got it.
I also decided to romance the pop star girl since she was the best party member in combat, and she didn't make me want to pull out my hair. Then the game presents you with one final choice, to decide who is my most cherished person, and it was between the Valorant E-boy and the pop star girl. So I chose my newly romanced anime waifu, only to realize the grave mistake I had made. Anyway, the final act starts, and it has you defending the base from monsters, nothing too crazy there. Then we go to super sleep to begin the ritual, and my wife is sitting there telling me about the song she'll write when it's all over. 2 scenes later, and my waifu is outside the train for no reason at all, and gets abducted. And what happens next is the worst gameplay section of the entire game. Not only because we have to run through a ton of monsters, more than there have ever been up to at this point, but we also lost our sword arm, so we can't even defend ourselves. Our best friend finally does something useful for once and leads the monsters away from where we need to go. We see my virtual wife strung up by monsters, and through the power of friendship, we get our sword arm back, and we begin the last section of the game. And this section is way harder than normal, since I lost my ability to heal. You know, the best skill in the game because I dared romance the pop star waifu. If I was smart, I would have romanced the science girl and let her die for not getting her 3rd booster shot. Regardless, we have the final fight, and my first attempt went decently well for having no healing, only for me to die at the very end because I attacked the boss too many times, because some bosses have knockback attacks that do damage to you. But I persevered and beat the final boss. We then get one last interaction with the missus, and we have a QuickTime event only rivaled by God of War's Abandon Your Daughter QTE. And the day is saved. The game gives you a Where Are They Now update on all your favorite characters and the credits roll, with a QR code at the end for you to scan. And it's basically a semi-sequel bait saying that your love interest will find a way back to you. Science Girl also talks about science even when she is dying. She can't shut up about it, so for that I hope there isn't a sequel. Now the ending's got me thinking, what if I stayed True Cell and Chud-pilled and didn't romance anyone? After all, I hate most of these characters, and they only die if I find them important. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there was an ending for not romancing anyone. Would it be a true ending since everyone would live? A bad ending since your bonds wouldn't be strong enough and the world would be doomed? But to my surprise, in the final act of Reddit writing, the game literally points out that this is a bad ending, and that not reaching rank 6 with your party members means you didn't experience the story properly. Then it gives you an option to go back to the previous act, and if you decline, you just get a text that says, "You've reached a bad ending." Play your choice, my ass. This is such an insult for an ending. How lazy do you have to be as a writer to think this is the best you can come up with? A joke? Truly awful. Time for the conclusion. Should you buy this game?
Fuck no, baby!
This is generally up there with some of the worst games I've played for how much it annoyed me. Combat was bare bones and unpolished for what it inspires to be. The story was nothing special. The writing was god-awful and shows that millennials need to be banned from writing entertainment forever. It just goes to show that Redditors are subhumans who don't deserve rights and that they don't matter at all. Hopefully the actual 30th anniversary of Persona is better than this, but with how things are looking, I can't say for certain. Anyways, do the things YouTube likes, and bye.